So what's happening in health? Back to that. Events have occurred in the last 10 years that have shaken up the thinking in some health circles rather significantly, and that's what I'm going to talk about. We have renewed interest for an integrated approach to health challenges brought about by rapid change that's going on, which has been referred to already today. So one of the most iconic illustrations has been the introduction of West Nile virus into the Western Hemisphere, and we'll talk about that as our main illustration today. As you can see from this slide, the outfall of this major event highlights the multitude of professions and disciplines that became involved with this outbreak, albeit very slow, in fits and starts, and with much reluctance, miscommunication, and confusion. It very nicely illustrates, though, the main revelation, if you can call it that, that human health is intrinsically and inseparably linked to the natural environment, including domestic and wild animals, insects, forests, weather, and that this is often largely driven by human behavior or societal choices. So the story kind of goes like this. In 1999, in the greater New York area, some birds, lots of crows, some passerine birds, and some more notable species at the Bronx Zoo were found to be dying or experiencing neurologic symptoms. Meanwhile, at the same time, in the same region, humans were becoming ill with encephalitis-like symptoms and causing some concern. Assumptions were made about the humans that they were suffering from St. Louis encephalitis, which is a disease known to occur in the United States, but confirmation of this was taking some time. So these two groups did not talk to each other until the pathologist, who was a veterinarian at the Bronx Zoo, having seen the human reports in the news, started asking if these two trends might be related. The human health community was dismissive of such a connection and was sure that this was not possible. So the long story short is that the veterinary pathologist eventually pursued a specific diagnosis of her cases and documented that it was West Nile virus, never before seen in North America. And she finally convinced the human health folks to run tests for West Nile virus in their cases too, and the result demonstrated that it was the same disease affecting the birds. The disease was being spread through a common vector, the mosquito, who of course doesn't really care what animal they're biting. So in the last 10 years, West Nile virus has, which was probably introduced by an airplane, believe it or not, has spread across the North American continent, up into Canada, and down into South America. It regularly affects people, birds of all sorts, horses, and other animals, and the disease transmission patterns have been shown to be linked to the environment in many ways, including linked to biodiversity of ecosystems where it is circulating. We can now call it endemic. This event and others has led to a vibrant and global discussion of an idea talked about at Tufts some 30 years ago as One Medicine, and now referred to as One Health. West Nile is just one of many illustrations in the last decade of rapid change impacting human, animal, and environmental health, and most profoundly expressed through emerging infectious diseases like West Nile, biodiversity loss, climate change, and natural and man-made disasters. So a few examples at the top of the list, and probably most often in the news, is the idea of emerging infectious diseases. An oft-quoted study published in 2008 found that there have been 335 new human diseases identified between 1940 and 2004, infectious diseases, that is. More than half of these are shared between people and animals, and most of those are coming from wildlife. So some familiar ones that you might know, there's many of them mentioned there, would be SARS, Ebola virus, HIV, or hantavirus. So research questions persist about this. Why has there been a sudden acceleration of emerging diseases? Why do these diseases emerge where they do? And why is there such a strong wildlife component? We have also seen a rapid loss of biodiversity with portents of more to come. Based on current trends, an estimated 34,000 plants and 5,200 animal species, including 1 in 8 of the world's bird species, face extinction. We're creating the greatest extinction crisis since the natural disaster that wiped out the dinosaur 65 million years ago, and the 6th greatest mass extinction event of the planet. Biodiversity is the well from which life finds resilience to respond, adapt, and persist in a complex and ever-changing world. Loss of biodiversity affects health of ecosystems, animals, and humans through loss of that resilience and the ability to adapt to change, including challenges from emerging diseases and loss of ecosystem services. Climate change, of course, is predicted to have significant and similar impacts on health of both humans and animals, including simple things like heat stress, respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular disease, increased vector-borne diseases like malaria and West Nile virus, waterborne diseases, and afflictions associated with limited water and food supply, and increases in environmental refugees or migrations. And finally, we know that the impacts of natural and man-made disasters, such as the Horizon oil disaster in the Gulf and the recent earthquake, tsunami, and ensuing nuclear disaster, still unfolding in Japan, does impact humans, animals, and the environment in very significant ways. All in all, much of this is linked to the burgeoning human population growth, stressing the planet beyond its carrying capacity. So, these are prescient illustrations over the past decade of what the world is witnessing in increasing numbers of complex health and health-related problems. These are affecting simultaneously human and animal populations and the environment. Investigation and awareness of these issues has led advocates for human, animal, and environmental health to come together around this concept of One Health, a concept that recognizes explicitly the interdependence of the three healths. This is a very exciting concept and seems like a no-brainer. It really makes sense to most people when you talk about it. But it's much more difficult to realize and achieve than it seems. The concept acknowledges that the solution to complex health problems must seek to balance competing interests in the political sphere. No mean task, for no longer is it acceptable to elevate the health of one group over the health of others. All are linked in a complex web of health and well-being. Problems like this are calling for a new kind of health professional. Traditional training is important. However, the silos existing in our academic institutions and rigorous training programs are not very conducive to interdisciplinary work required to do One Health. At Tufts, we have good representation of the three healths, the perfect combination of strengths to be able to pursue One Health. We have already begun to build a university-wide community and are providing some measures of national and international leadership. In education, we've actively pursuing multiple initiatives that foster collaborative interdisciplinary learning environment, such as the Water Systems Science and Society Certificate Program, the new Masters in Conservation Medicine program, our combined degree programs, including the Veterinary Medicine and Public Health program, our provost-sponsored university seminar on One Health, and we are also thinking about how to bring this perspective into our undergraduate environmental studies program. Research at Tufts, of course, faculty are involved in One Health research, which includes some of these diseases that are shared by people and animals like avian influenza, Lyme disease, rabies, tuberculosis, cryptosporidiosis. And for service, many faculty at Tufts from all three campuses are participating in One Health-oriented service activities, perhaps the most notable being the USAID Respond project, which hopefully you have heard about. This is a global project that's committed to bringing a One Health approach to the hotspots around the world where emerging diseases are most likely to occur. These programs aim to build local and regional capacity to quickly recognize and contain new outbreaks, utilizing a broad range of first responders all the way from the government down to the community level. So as faculty come together here at Tufts around this idea, we're looking for a platform for regular and sustained collaboration. Thus far, we have a definition. One Health as the collaborative effort of multiple disciplines, working locally, nationally, and globally to attain optimal health for people, animals, and our environment. There are many things that we wish to explore together, including the fundamental, does a One Health approach really make any difference and produce better outcomes? We're keen to pursue this educational research and service activities and test this hypothesis. And I'm sure you're going to hear more about this in the future. So thank you very much.